you guys to stop for a bit. Don't quit, just stop for a bit, let us recover. And then we can do a postmortem and figure it out. You don't get to call the bad guys and go, hold on a second. All right, payroll is completely screwed up right now. We're completely dead. Please stop, because we can call. Ghostbusters. You guys are killing me. Old movies, come on. All right. Phase 3, we're spring into action like the good ninjas we are, start doing this validation in phases, like I said earlier. For a very first phase of this, that you can expect, right, this is what's coming. If you're getting this done too, this is what's coming. They're going to recon you. They're going to basically scope you out in any manner possible. They're not just going to, ping your entire subnet. Okay, they're going to figure out where you are physically, who you know, who you're partnered with, where the weak links are in your organization, whether it's IT related or not. They're going to find a nice target. They're going to make sure that it's high value and low risk to them. Right? They're going to infiltrate, establish a beachhead, which means they're going to get in, find a nice comfy spot in your organization, set up shop. Maybe if this is a physical thing, they'll get a queue, they'll get a working phone line, an email. If you've done this, you know why this is funny. And it's reconnaissance all over again. Right? Once you're in, you start looking around again to see what else. Maybe you've got a better target. Maybe that database you thought was the holy grail of breaking into this company, you're like, yeah, that's kind of cool because it's got names and addresses, but that one, that's got secret things in there that nobody's supposed to see. That's what you really want, right? That's where all the plans are for that fighter jet. Yes. Reevaluate your targets, and that's important, and then exfiltrate. I have fun stories that people have told me over the years where breaking in wasn't too difficult, whether physically or electronically. Breaking in wasn't too hard. Jason, how hard is it to break into a company? Yeah. Breaking in wasn't too difficult, right? Breaking in digitally wasn't too difficult. But they couldn't figure out a way to get the data out because the exfiltration part was harder. And they had really, this organization had really good outbound defenses. So they're like, okay, let's be rational about this. So they found, they showed up at the site and kind of looking around, sitting in the lobby for a while and realized everything is behind this, time lock, badge access system, except for the admin's workstation, which just happened to be on the network, and she never locks her screen when she walks away. So, anybody want to guess where this story goes? Right? Yeah, at some point, somebody remotely copies that huge cache of things you want to steal onto the admin's workstation, just outside those doors. There's an emergency, somebody falls over, she goes to run and check, they walk over, plug a USB stick, copy, unplug, walk away. Ta-da! Exfiltration completed. Right? Report planning. And then you get to take everything, right? That's the idea. Whether you're taking everything or just the strategic things, win all the things, hack all the servers, you want to make sure you leave no trace. The idea is not to be caught. I'll make another reference here, I'm warning you. It's how not to be seen. Monty Python fans? You guys are killing me.
Who's not a Monty Python fan?
I told you earlier.
We just like to see him squirm up there, that's all.
Jason's not holding his hand up.
I kind of responded to all of them. I just like to see him squirm.
There is only one push up podium up there.
No one expected this finish.
Nobody expected this, but thank you very much for that. Somebody had to do it. All right, so here's the one part about all these exercises and all this stuff that's in big, bold letters with an asterisk next to it, so you take a big notice. This is like the secret, I think, to doing really good exercises like this. It's keeping notes. I don't mean like, at some point we did this, and we launched an attack, and then we went for peace. No, I mean like OCD style, really, really good notes. Exactly at this time, we executed this attack against this server, or we walked into this room and did this and would pick this lock. There's a reason why you want to do this. There's an absolutely fantastic reason. You'll see it why later. But this is the most important thing out of any red team exercise. If you're the person getting value out of it, right? So this is where it becomes valuable. The last phase of this is called analysis. And a lot of us have heard me say this, but the prediction is stuff's going to break. Now, this is different, again, from things getting hacked. Yeah, you get hacked, that's not even the question. But things are going to break. We have brittle systems, we have interconnectedness that we never thought of, that nobody ever told you about, because it was like 6, the staff refreshes ago. And things are going to break The big question is, one of the major questions you're going to want to answer is what broke and specifically why. This is what we call system resiliency failures, right? That one brittle system that the whole company's depending on because you have a major client, you created that thing that if you sneeze next to it, it goes down, and then your major client calls and threatens to pull their business from you. That's going to break. And if you haven't planned on that's going to break, what do we do next? You're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. This is where we do things like root cause analysis. Who's done one of those before? Those are a lot of fun, right? Lots and lots of whiteboard space. Lots and lots of time with coffee trying to figure out, look, this thing broke at 6 p.m., but they said they didn't do anything until a day before that. Why did that make sense? Are those even connected? Here's another secret to this. What do you guys think that if you're doing incident response and post-mortems like this, the number one thing that I think is very, very important?
Note time.
Clock synchronization.
Yeah.
Having synchronized clocks. And this is like if you've ever seen the movies where they all synchronize watches. It looks cool, right? But you want to do that with whoever's going to attack you. Because when they say at 6:15 p.m., it's 6:15 p.m., not 6:17 on your clock, because those won't match up. Make sure you're on the same time zones as well. Just experience. It's funny later, but it's not funny while you're doing it. And if you're trying to coordinate 40 servers with a log files and every one of them is off by like a minute or so, forget about it. It's just not going to happen, right? You can't trace packets like that. I mean, you can, but I hope you've got a lot of time on your hands, in which case it's going to be ineffective anyway. So, did the attack succeed? Totally wrong question, right? We know it did, and we know it will. So, the questions become, how successful was it? I know it's a little scary because attacks rarely fail. If you want to know how rarely, talk to Chris Nickerson, he'll tell you, never. Ever. That's really scary. But you can look at this as, okay, we can just give up because they're always going to get in and always going to take our stuff, so what? Or you can look at the 3 key measures here. There are 3 things that I think is where we've been driving to this entire time. This is where I think information security really makes an impact on the organization. Remember what we said, resilience is about what?
Bouncing back to the original.
Getting back to business, right? Getting back to that original shape you were in. So here's your 3 key measures. Time. That's the first one. How long did it take for them to get in and do what they were chartered to do? 15 minutes? Probably bad. 3 days? Better. A month? I'd say you're pretty good, right? Nobody makes it to 3 days. Nobody rarely make it past the first couple hours. Who here has a safe in their house? Fireproof safe. When you look at that safe, if you probably looked at it, but if you haven't recently, it's not just fireproof, right? It's fire resistant to a specific temperature for a specific period of time. We'll call that the burn time. Right? Your house can burn for a specific period of time before your valuables inside it become liquid, along with the safe. Right? Information security, these types of tests provide us with the knowledge of how long our burn time is. And I've got a newsflash. If you're still thinking about we're doing security, you're doing it wrong. What we're trying to do with how much money we spend, how much resources and manpower we have in information security, we're not trying to secure the company, we're trying to increase the burn time. Does this make sense? Right? If I spend $1 million, it'll give me an extra 15 minutes. If I spend another $1 million beyond that, I may get 1.5 minutes more. But if I spend 10, I might get 5, right? You get to a point. At first, it's easy. The first $1,000, sometimes free, right? Tons of open source stuff out there. That first hop is simple. Then getting it up the curve further and further gets more increasingly difficult, which means that one of the things we get good at is going, all right, my house is on fire for 3 hours. That means either the end of the world has come and the Mayan gods have descended, or the fire department is just not showing up, right? And am I willing to pay $3 million for a safe that keeps my valuables safe for 3 hours in my home? You know, it's cheaper to go to a bank, to a vault, right? Decisions we make in business. So the other next measure, damage. And we ask a couple of questions here. How extensive was the hack from the hacking perspective and infiltration and stealing of data, but also how bad was it from the breakage perspective. Did the first time we tried to go red team on this insignificant, disconnected little web server over here, like did everything stop working all of a sudden? Because that's probably pretty bad, right? You find out, you get device maps and interconnectedness maps of your organizations that you never knew existed after doing one of these exercises. Because these databases that have nothing to do with anything else in the company, but they do, because once a year they upload data, and it'll be during that time, I promise. It's just the way that law works. So the last thing is criticality, right? So what we really want to know is how critical was the asset that they took, that they got into, and what did you end up getting? What did they get? You kind of want to know. They got a cache of emails. If they were able to transfer money out of your corporate account, that would be a lot different, right? So these are different questions. Now comes the really hard part, and this is a full RC on the events. What broke? Where did the hack happen? And here comes the really difficult part, right? How do we make it better? How do we increase that burn rate to something we're comfortable with? Step one is, what are we comfortable with? That's what you got to do the precursor for. And then you get to find out how much can we move that needle. So in the interest of time, you have to follow the attack path. Where did security fail? Was it a detection thing? Was it an analysis thing? Was it a protection thing? Was it a people failure? Process failure? Did step one of the incident response manual simply not work and therefore it invalidates the rest of our incident response process? Or was there a step in there that said you got to call Bob because Bob's the only one that has access to that key? Bob's on vacation. Now what? Well, heck, get Bob out of vacation. Wrong answer. Bob didn't bring a cell phone with him. Technology fails all the time, primarily because we forget to update things. We install something, we can't possibly spend all the time we need to implement it right. We don't have the resources to manage it properly, which means that IDS that we installed 5 years ago hasn't gotten updated. And you can complain about IDS all you want, except for the fact that if you don't update it, you don't get to complain, right? It's like installing antivirus once. It's only effective at the things it knows about at that point. Now there's technology beyond that and stuff like that, but you don't get to complain if technology fails and it's your fault. And there's also this enterprise intelligence failure, which I don't have a whole lot of time to talk about, but it's basically connecting dots across many other organizations. If we have time at the end of this, and I probably won't, tell you a great story about how when a database monitoring, nothing to do with security, could have saved a humongous breach of data. But because security always operates in a silo, nobody ever knows about it, enterprise intelligence doesn't happen. It's a connecting the dots issue, right? So what's the remedy? Defense 101, very basic stuff. The attack, deter, and respond. If you're like the military game, you know what this is about. It's about increasing the burn time. You're not going to prevent getting attacked or hacked. Let's start with that premise. The attacker may already be inside your organization calling you. You like that? You want to be able to get countermeasures in place. You want to be able to start with the premise of, okay, if things go bad right now, what can I do? Will I know about it? How quickly can I find that issue? Can I find that critical breakage point? How much can I stall them, keep them occupied? How many times are they going to trip over a cord before one of them pulls out and I get an alert? Right? This is that tripwire model. How much burn time do I get? And then what do I do if I go, holy cow, there's somebody actively stealing database records right now? What do we do, right? That's not the time you want to make policy on the fly. From experience, when the network is being completely overrun and you're wasting billions of dollars on raw materials because there's a machine that continually reboots because a worm is hitting it, you don't ever want to try to figure out, well, do we just turn off the entire plant? How do we figure out what the process is for getting those, infected machines off the network? That's things you should have thought about, before this, right? Been there, done that, not a pretty picture. So here's the notion, right, that I want you guys to walk away with. There's the notion of minimal change. You're not going to, after an exercise like this, you're going to go through the RCA, you find out, okay, I want to increase the burn time, I know where the brittle systems are, I know where we got to act. You're going to have to do something to move that bar, to increase that burn time. It has to be minimal to the organization. You can't walk into developers tomorrow, into your VP of applications or develop delivery or whatever, You can't walk in there tomorrow and go, okay, first thing that got hacked was our app, because we have SQL injection on every app we own. So you write it in on purpose. Huh, how well do you know your employees? Anyway, so you can't walk, it's a different story. You can't walk in there tomorrow and go, okay, your apps suck. I'm going to give you a new process for doing app security. So you know what's going to happen?
You're gonna hire new
There's
developers.
the door, right? Or that, right? There's the door. And if you're lucky, they don't throw you out. They'll just ask you to leave. So the idea of minimum change with maximum impact, what little things can you do to move up that curve as far as possible before you annoy somebody? And how do you annoy them as little as possible while increasing that burn time, rather? So what's our goal here? Do we want to, are we comfortable just deterring the casual hacker? I hope not. If you are, you don't need me and you wasted your time for the last hour. Do we want to slow down? Most of us are worried about slowing down the attacker and catching them so we can do detection, deterrence, and response in real time, in some sort of near real time. It's always better, I promise you, talk to corporate comms, it's always better to go to you have your CEO at Wall Street, saying, okay, we got SQL injected, but we caught it at 50,000 records, and the other 4.5 million, we're good because we cut that off while it was happening, right? Rather than 6 months later or years ago, so yeah, we got SQL injected, didn't know about it, found out about it yesterday. Completely different outlook on things. Fortifying your deficiencies, you're going to find out where those are pretty quickly. You're going to find out how to optimize your defenses. These are things that we can come back in afterwards and go, all right, that didn't last long, right? This is kind of like the Maginot Line. History buffs. This is the greatest defense that will never get used. It's still there, ironically. They just went. It's like putting a defense right here. I had a slide, I had to take it out because it was just inappropriate. But it's basically, you guys have all seen it, right? It's that one-armed mechanical thing with the bat, and people just drive it's in the snow, so you can see tire tracks around it. Great defenses. And we spent $1 million on that card reader. So business changes, right? Priorities change, technology changes, attackers change, attacks change, patterns change. The sun goes down, it comes up tomorrow. And threats will continue to evolve, so if you read the headlines, you're never going to get there. We have to get to a comfort level by testing our defenses. And more importantly, testing our response when things go bad. If you don't, you're going to find out how bad it is in the worst possible moment. You have to be able to get there. It's all about real life attacks. The simulated stuff is just, we can't be creative enough. When you don't have the ability to just go, I'd love to attack that server, but it's out of scope. That's the most vulnerable one, I promise. Right? That's the thing that if you go by it and go, boop, the company falls over. That's the House of Cards ID, right? You pull that, you're not allowed to pull the bottom card out. Why? Because when you do, the whole thing falls down. So you want to find out where your deficiencies, where your brittle stuff is, not during a catastrophe. So this is kind of fun. How many of you guys think you can see this Chief Chaos Officer on anytime soon, right? It's probably not a role that most companies can be comfortable with. Heck, most of the senior executives I present this to are just like, yeah, that's a great idea. We'll be doing that never. But if you stop and rationally think about it, this is something that you can actually have as part of the Chief Information Security Officer role. But it's got to be an auditor role, right? Even better as an audit function. Or within risk. Because you can't tell the security team it's going to happen. You can't give them time to prepare. They're either prepared right now or they're not. It's not fair to tell the mugger when you're going to go walk through that alley. It's just not. Right? You want to be able to fail at your own hands. When you instrument your own demise, you can say, stop, uncle. No more, we're falling over, nobody knows what to do, the building's on fire. Please quit. Right? Your enemies, you don't get to tell them to. You don't get to tell them that. Because they'll go, great. They'll watch the news as everybody's panicking and your stock price is plummeting, they'll go, more of that, please. You can't bribe them to make them stop. All right, that's it. I hope you guys learned something, picked something up out of this. My name's Rafal. That's how you get it. Thank you.
We are actually right at time, so unfortunately.
It's almost like as if I planned this.
Almost.
And this is a part of a much broader, like a full one-day type of workshop. If anybody's interested in it, let me know. It's a lot of fun to find out how bad things are. Just prepare for how bad things are, that's all I'm saying. Thank you. Anybody learn anything besides Monty Python quotes? Thanks.
Is there anything more worthwhile learning? Okay.
CCC. I like it. I like it. Because you're not good as long as later.